Well, joining us now here on the program, we are learning more about the ForGround by Bayer platform, which is aimed at driving forward regenerative agriculture. Joining us now to talk about it, she is the lead for ForGround by Bayer and also an agronomist with Bayer Crop Science. Alyssa Cho is with us here today on the program. And Alyssa, thanks so much for being with us. I hope you're doing well.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's just start and kind of dive in here a little bit and learn more about the ForGround program from Bayer and much more. Really interesting stuff. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this line of work and your role here at Bayer.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So I've been in this role for a couple years now, going on 3 years. And the reason that I joined Bayer was specifically to contribute to developing this space around how we incentivize farmers to participate in regenerative agriculture. So my background is really in sustainable ag. I have a PhD in agronomy, so an agronomist by training. But really, my passion has always been around how we look at systems and really try to optimize inputs, outputs, driving revenue for the farmer, and also contributing to positive climate action.
Fantastic. Well, let's tie that in with ForGround by Bayer. Give us a kind of a overview synopsis of what is ForGround by Bayer.
ForGround by Bayer is really a platform that's intended to help farmers at all stages of their sustainability and regenerative ag journey. And the concept behind it is for it to be really a digital platform where farmers can both learn about new opportunities, new programs, the practices themselves, while also, if they're ready, participating in programs that can actually help them both increase their adoption rates, but also receive incentives for doing so.
I was thinking about those incentives. Can you break down how farmers actually earn revenue through ForGround?
So our primary way that we offer incentives or revenue opportunities for farmers on ForGround right now is through a program which is also known in the market as our Bayer Carbon program. So ForGround itself was really intended to be a platform that's all-encompassing for farmers who are ready and not ready to participate. If they're ready to participate, that revenue-generating program is really our core carbon program, which is offered through the ForGround platform.
Well, tell us what value does ForGround bring to its customers through its resources?
ForGround is really a way for farmers who are interested in learning more about this market and learning more about how they can be successful in adopting regenerative agricultural practices to kind of get their toes wet without making a significant commitment to a specific program or offer. And through the platform, they're able to access things like benefits, they're able to access agronomic support if they need it, as well as if they're ready to learn more about programs, they can dive deeper into that as well.
We're talking today with Alyssa Cho, agronomist with Bayer and lead for the ForGround by Bayer platform. We know farmers, they've got quite a few options now when it comes to adopting regenerative ag practices. Alyssa, can you tell us more about what sets ForGround apart?
I think what really sets ForGround apart is being backed by Bayer and having that trust and scientific rigor that comes along with being with a company like Bayer. It's one of the reasons why I joined this position, is really how we can scale this market and scale the impact that we can make. So I think what's most important is that we can be a trusted partner for farmers as they enter into this space, and that we're really trying to optimize what we're doing for the longevity of the program. So we're not looking for a quick win here. We're really looking at how we can stand up a market that's going to withhold time and withstand time, but also be able to provide that incentive for as long as we can for that farmer. Specifically, why ForGround is a good partner for that is because we are also allowing farmers to enter in without making an initial commitment. So by entering into ForGround by Bayer, if they're not quite ready to commit to a program or they're just starting to adopt regenerative ag practices, it's a way that they can participate without fully committing right away. If they're ready to participate in our Bayer Carbon program, then again, we're offering that trust, the scientific rigor, the ability to create high quality offset credits, as well as those value chain emission reductions that we're working with partners on. So it really can be that trusted partner for the journey that they're going on, both from their regenerative ag side, from an agronomic perspective, but also from the market perspective.
There's a lot of different factors that go into things here. I know, and a lot of farmers asking questions, things like that. What about verification and the practices there? Can you tell us more about maybe some of the advancements in verification practices?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, as you know, it's very difficult. There's a lot of complexity and science behind how we're verifying that carbon is being sequestered through the practices that farmers are adopting. So, there's a lot of different ways that we look at verification. So, from a farmer's perspective, the way that we're looking for verification is twofold. One way is through remote sensing and ways in which we can verify that there was a practice evident on the field without having to ask the farmer themselves. The second level of verification there is by actually gathering evidence from the farmer. Do they have cover crop receipts? Can they give us custom application receipts? That kind of thing. And then we also follow up with soil sampling. So that's another way that we're looking at the quantification of the actual sequestration in the soil. So those are just some of the examples of what we do at Bayer to verify practice adoption and the actual sequestration.
Well, of course, a lot of talk and a lot of work being done by farmers and throughout the ag industry for regenerative agriculture right now. I mean, talk about what other factors you're seeing that are showing that regenerative agriculture is here to stay, Alyssa.
Well, I think if you speak to farmers who've been doing these practices for a very long time prior to this market being in existence, the reasons that they do it usually are related to soil health and the legacy of their operation. So they want to leave their farm better than when they started farming it. And one way that they can do that is by incorporating these practices, which ultimately really drive soil health. This all comes down to soil health. And so for the farmer, there's a lot of benefits that they're gaining from that in terms of water use on the farm, nutrient flow in their systems, weed suppression in some cases. There's a multitude of what we call co-benefits to adopting regenerative agricultural practices, in addition to this new market opportunity around revenue. So I think that's where the opportunity to really understand how we can look at the system as a whole rather than just, one little component of it. And there's also a lot of scientific evidence out there and academic research that has shown over time, you might have an initial kind of yield challenge with adoption, but long term, you actually have higher yields and better withstanding of extreme weather events under these systems.
Well, great stuff. Really enjoyed the conversation. Where can folks go to learn more about the foreground from Bayer platform and much more, Alyssa?
Yep, they can go to bayerforeground.com. It's free to join. There's no cost. You can just link your FieldView account and quickly get access to the platform.
Fantastic. Well, and before we let you go, anything final you'd want to share or reiterate to folks, either about ForGround by Bayer or just thoughts on where we're at in terms of regenerative ag practices, et cetera? Anything else you'd want to add or share for us today?
Yeah, for me, the message that I usually share with farmers is that this is the opportunity that probably may not come again in your lifetime. There's so many market forces that are contributing to this. If you have any consideration of trying out new practices, there's a lot of ways that you can stack incentives and really have support for trying out these regenerative practices on your farm. So I'd encourage them to dig deeper if they're interested.
Fantastic. Well, with that, agronomist and lead for the ForGround by Bayer platform, Alyssa Cho. Alyssa, thanks for joining us on the program today. Really appreciate the time and conversation. We'll talk to you again in the future.
Thank you.